And hello, let's make a quick mic check. Working fine, we will start in a minute. And yeah, let's begin. Or shall I say, let's continue where we left off. So previously, yesterday's stream was not that much around work. I didn't have that much time, so and instead I've kind of spent talking about things. Talked about practical thinkers, theoretical thinkers, what's the difference, and how is the best idea to combine these two, ideally. And also kind of touched on topic of visualization and kind of describe why I did everything that I did before. So why I'm working on these step by step, why I'm spending time on putting this together. So it's all for the sake of working on my visualization skill. So I guess we will continue. But again, and also I touched the topic of reference gathering and kinda struggled with the problem where to go from here. Either go with one direction and work with this stage like back and forth, go to the reference gathering stage, then go back to this stage and put some initial design sketch, and then go again to the reference gathering stage, like finally. So basically going back and forth between explorational 2D stage and the next stage, reference gathering on design and construction, or choose the other way, just leave this at this level and just strictly go to the fifth stage. But a problem that I kind of stumbled upon is that I decided that more efficient way for me at least going to be work a little bit more on design and actually explore it, because again, right now I didn't explore design at all. The only thing that I explored is basic shapes that are going to be used, basic placement of objects inside this space. Yeah, so it would be a cool thing if I would work on at least somewhat some type of a design depiction before moving on to the next stages. And again, talking about design, about this stage, how we would approach it, again, all about references. References are our best friend in terms of if we don't know how things are going to look, references is always something that will help us to figure out how things were going to look. And usually we're going to build upon references. So I guess so yeah, we have additional information that we need to kind of search. The first and foremost thing I think that we need to search is, of course, the character poses, because it's logically for us to start with something that's as important as possible. So since our characters are primary focus, of course we need to kind of focus on them, and since there are 4 characters, it definitely is going to be not that easy to figure out how we are going to pose them. So in terms of poses, since we already kind of figured out the like static design, it's not like final design, but still in final design we will make it much more cooler. It was somewhat like a design study to figure out how these designs works, to figure out how proportions works inside these characters and outside of them in comparison to each other. Yeah, so and of course, if we are going to create different poses for them, all these design elements that we are kind of depicted right here loosely are going to be shaped differently. So shapes are going to be shapes are going to change, and things going to look a little bit differently. And the cool thing about design is that right now, at this point, since we're working with already existing materials, we don't need to figure out how how this design is going to look from a bunch of angles. But in reality, when you're creating something on your own, some type of personal project, and this personal project is not based on anything that already existing, by that I mean you basically created it. It doesn't mean that it's not going to be based on something that already existing, because everything is based on reality. But what I mean is just basically something that you create. So not just like use some type of material that already existed, like in its full how it is. So basically, you're not just like picking Angry Birds and calling it your own project. No. So yeah, when we're talking about personal projects, we always need to think about how design that we are going to implement going to look in different poses, or at least in poses that we are going to depict in our illustration or showcase in our illustration. Mostly, if you work with animated characters or creating potential animation characters, that way you of course need to think about multiple angles. But when we are working with illustration, we could think about this less. But still doesn't mean that we don't need to explore it. So that's why our reference search has to be pretty broad in terms of poses. So let's just, I guess, begin our reference search right away. In a previous stream, I kind of touched how we would approach it. Where is it? Our web browsing. So yeah, this is how you usually approach a web search, or not web search, but reference search. Again, before we worked a little bit on finding references that will spark our imagination to create interesting things, interesting shapes in our mind that will, and layers, so-called layers, that will which will help us to build layer by layer and create more visual information for our project. So basically, the more references we have, of course not like random references, but references that actually doing something for us, inspirational references, something that help us to again bring things that we are trying to imagine to much more clear state. Yeah, so so far these 80 pins was pins that we did solely on a reference, on inspirational reference search phase or stage. And right now we need to go into the more complex reference search, but still not that complex, because again this is not fifth stage. But since we are decided to go on this stage a little bit earlier, we still need to find pretty detailed references in order to picture how we would design them. So for now, since we're working with characters first, I guess what we need to do is just basically search for the references that we want and pin them to our board. And since Pinterest, I don't think, let's just try to search this as in Pinterest. If Pinterest will not produce these type of results, we are going to go into the search. Yeah, as you see, Pinterest doesn't have that much. Oh. For some reason in Firefox, Pinterest is lagging. In Opera, it didn't lag at all. But right here it's lagging. So yeah, I think for that we just going to use Google search and add needed information to our pin board by using Pinterest button that was installed as an extension. Yeah, the only thing why I'm using Firefox right now is because it has the ability to save right from the picture, when with the Opera they're not appearing, and the only way to save is just going there and choosing, which is kind of a long thing to do. This kind of saves a little bit more time, I guess. So yeah, let's just start figuring out what type of poses we would choose, or some type of poses that it's close to what we imagine. So again, let's just start with probably, since we are not going to search particular characters, because movie scenes are usually featuring either all characters in one scene, either couple them. I think we need to approach it. No, I think we need to think about all characters at the same time. It's going to be a pretty hard thing to do. But still, just look at references and see what's fitting the character that you want to depict. So let's just do, I think it's better if we are going to see our supposed motion. So yeah, on top, of course, we're now seeing what type of poses we want for these characters, and now we need to search, and I'm kind of already imagining these poses, and the only thing that we need to do right now is to find as much as possible references that will help us to picture them much more clearly, and that will help us to depict design or implement design elements from these references into our particular poses. Because again, the problem with this is that usually in order to create some type of pose, so you have like static character, and in order to make this character dynamic, you need to basically understand how this character looks from as much angles as possible. You need to understand construction of this character, you need to understand form of this character. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to go first on the stage of explorational, on the 5th stage right away, and skip this stage, because then we still go into 3D stage, a sketching stage, which will be working with these type of things, but still some part of me kind of thinks that we need to spend a little bit more time on at least depicting what type of designs we are going to do, to create some type of a direction for us in a future stages, because right now the only direction that I have is these block shapes and vague picture how I am imagining them, and in order to make this more clear, we need to spend a little bit more time on this. That's why I decided to take this step. It's not going to be an ideal step or perfect step, and the hardest thing about this step is not to go into details too much. And so if we are going to basically messed up proportions or messed up perspective or messed up something else, it's not a problem. Again, we're doing it for the sake of providing additional visual information in front of our eyes, because again, when you have this information only in your brain, it's kind of hard to concentrate on it and extract it. That's why we need to kind of focus. So the more visual cues we have for our imagination, the better we could use this concept of visualization, as I talked before. So as I said before, yeah, the more layers we have, and these layers have to be not only layers inside of our mind, like the first one, inspiration and idea, not something abstract, but something actually real, what we actually can see. And usually description is something that we can see. Sketches, this is something that we can see. References, this is something that we can see in front of our eyes and actually analyze it and kind of use it for the things that we want. That's why we are going to do that. So let's just go into our reference source. So again, we need to think about all characters at the same time. The good thing is that we already have the type of motion that we want to depict with them. So we're going to search for unpredictability, we're going to search for hesitation, we're going to search for tension, and we're going to search for freedom. and these are some type of keywords for the search, or at least we have to keep in our mind these words in order to search properly. Also, it would be cool to keep in our mind what type of motion and the direction of this motion, so motion outward or forward or inward, where this motion is going, because again, I don't think that we specifically can find a particular pose that will fit our camera angle, and yes, and so we're definitely not going to find this type of poses, but still we need, as an artist, we need to use every material that we have in order to some kind of find a way to transform this material into something that we actually want to draw and want to visualize. And these cues, such as unpredictability, hesitation, tension, freedom, the direction of motion, and of course visual information, how these poses are looking, could look, and what type of motion and gesture we want to depict. Using all these cues, it will help us to find references that we're going to then use to transform in our poses. So let's think about that. Let's just keep searching. So this reference is probably a pretty good reference. It doesn't matter what actually we're going to use, but still the pose of this, the pose of the chuck is pretty close to what I am going to aiming for. We can use it for basically depicting an arms, because the more position we have for the arms, or in that particular instance wings, the better we will showcase them. Also, we need to think about how their beaks are going to be displayed, because again, chuck has pretty long beak, so as bubbles. These have the small ones, but still it's going to kinda definitely it's going to change our design. So let's just pin something that, in our opinion, we think we could use. So yeah. What? So again, what I'm looking for is emotions, gesture, and of course keep in mind what type of poses I want, these poses, and just trying to figure it out. I'm not going to comment like every thought, because it will take me, I guess, a lot of time. So I just going to see these references and try to analyze them in my brain and see what type of references I could use. So right here, this is like a perfect eye direction depiction, and kind of a face that we could use probably in here. So yeah, I'm going to talk about something that obvious. Okay, this one we could use for yeah, this one we could use for, because for depicting how angry our character is. So how his beak shaped, mouth shaped, eyes are squished, and this is pretty cool thing to use in here in terms of a let's just see if they are truly saving in our Pinterest. Never used Firefox before. Yeah, they actually saving. Go. They don't have to be like crazy good quality. The only thing that we are kind of interested in these particular situations is basic information. Okay, so this one probably could benefit us if we would decided to extend Chuck's neck and decided to go up, but I don't think so. I don't think that I'm going to do that. I'll just continue. So okay, this one we could use for our red pose too. Pretty cool. Also, this particular angle, it's pretty close to the angle that we're going to showcase bomb right here, so we could save it. What a... Yeah, I need to kind of get used to this, have to get used to this thing. Never did this before. Okay, so how he... So we need to kind of find at least one reference that could showcase how Red is actually putting his wings together like this, or at least as much information about this as possible. And sometimes we need to kind of work with something like this. So right now he not actually kind of putting these hands like here, but still we now have some type of a kind of example how he could do that. So let's just save this one. Are they saving? Yep. So Chuck, for Chuck, I think this one would be pretty beneficial because it has here like this angle that I could probably wanted to depict him in some type of similar angle. But again, he's going to look right here, but still he's doing something with his hands. It's pretty good reference for us. Like, imagine like he's holding a cup of tea right here. So this is a pretty cool reference, I think we could use for that. And again, when you're working with a particular reference search, it's much more tedious in terms of the time and more time consuming, because you have to spend a close proximity of time to actually like look close to these characters, see what type of things you like about this and what you could use or what you can't use, because you can do it like before in an inspirational search when you I see something cool, I just save it. I see something cool, I just save it. Of course, when you go in with the inspirational reference search, you seek for something quick that could spark your imagination. You don't need necessarily to spend a bunch of times on it. But in this particular case, we have to spend a little bit more time on reference search, because we now working with much more details to kind of. So now this is not some type of thing that works as a spark in our imagination. Now we're actually trying to put things that we are imagining into reality, and to do that we need to go with the extensive search. Okay, this one pretty cool. Yeah, this look on his face is something that something like that I probably would picture for Red. Okay, I think we probably already have something for Red. Yes, or enough information for the Red. The only type of information that we still don't have is how he could like put his wings together. Also, since most of these characters are sitting, and at least this one is definitely sitting, and this one's sitting, and these are going to actually stand on these boxes, I think we need also to save some type of reference how Red is looking when he's sitting. Hello, angry. I don't think that we need to showcase him as angry one. Again, he just wants to. We want to showcase tension. This is too far from tension. Oh yeah, this is the closest thing with the hands. We could use it. This is like perfect reference for this particular pose that I'm imagining. Chuck. Okay, these sequences when Chuck is all over the place could help us to create pretty interesting pose for him and make this pose look natural, because at least again for now it doesn't look natural at all, because we don't know how Chuck functions in terms of a character. So again, when you're trying to pose, for instance, human being, you need to understand human anatomy, how it moves, how every joint is moving, where these joints are moving. When we are going to work with human anatomy, for that I have solution. We're going to use mannequin that I created long time ago, where in this mannequin I used bunch of restrictions that help us to understand when the movement is basically ending. So basically it's some kind of a thing that help us to understand how far we can reach our hand, rotate it forward, extend it, whatever. So these things we need to understand about human anatomy and with every character that we create. And when we're working with unfamiliar characters like these, it's not always from the get-go apparent how these characters are going to function, how their body is going to function, and these type of references should help us to depict these type of movements. Okay, this one is perfect example how he would sit on something that similar to what we are created. Again, right now Red is in here like small. He's a kid right here, but still it's pretty good enough information for us to use. And as you see, I kind of wanted to focus on all characters at once, but right now I'm kind of focusing on one. Again, it all depends how your brain could work. Oh, this pose is the closest one for what I could picture. This is pretty cool. This is pretty cool. So now we can try to shift on a different character, because you never know what you could miss. So for instance, we could put red in this type of position in terms of sitting. This is one of the ways we could put him in sitting position. But still, I try to focus on all characters. The problem is that almost everywhere red is shown. He's like the primary character of the movie. Yeah, I guess I have the most information for the red. This is again for sitting position. It's a pretty good reference for sitting position. Let's see if we could find something better with better quality. This better quality, but his, yes, this one much more appropriate in overall. Oh, come on. So I guess pretty much all information that we could gather about red we gathered. Let's just save a couple of things to showcase more information about bubbles, because we don't have that much information about bubbles at all. And no. Should I stress about the quality, or it doesn't matter? Yeah, I think it doesn't matter. Again, we are going to use this one time and one time only, so it doesn't matter like for creating only one illustration. So I think don't have to stress about quality at all. It's not that important thing. No matter what this picture is, as long as it's working for us, I think we need to use it. Somehow I see that I could use this for a bomb. We're still gonna, again, it would be much more ideal way to if we had a actual movie and could go through this movie and see all these things. Also, somehow we need to find something closer to Bomb having something in his hands or covering his mouth. It's going to be a hard thing to actually find. I also can't use right now like YouTube in terms of ideally I would just like try to go in videos and see these videos, but I don't know if it will create copyright issues or not. I think it could, so if I would do it, I would probably do it outside of the search here, not demonstrating it. So that's why I kind of want to stick to picture search, which is less copyright friendly. So okay, so right here what do we have? So possible pose probably for Chuck. Yeah, again, this process is pretty tedious. It's not that boring when you are actually doing it, because you're actually thinking of something and trying to find things that you're thinking of. But again, for the viewer, I think it's not something that that interesting. But again, I want to provide full experience, so no matter how boring things are, you can always kind of go to the chat and talk about things and ask about things while I'm doing this search. For now, of course, it's probably not the case, but I hope in the future it will be the case. Oh, this is actually Fanart of Angry Birds. Pretty cool, pretty cool. We also could approach Angry Birds like this, so by drawing them this way, making them this way. That way it would be much more easier, and we probably wouldn't even need to stress about all these things. So I think I will save this thing as into the Pinterest. I think it definitely could help us. Let's just save this one. But we have almost every character that we need except Bubbles. Again, the more design variations we have, the better. It would be cool if we actually stumble upon something like this when we're searched for Angry Birds on an inspirational stage. That way we could actually explore what type of designs we could depict. But again, since from the beginning I decided that Angry Birds are going to look like in Angry Birds movie and not like in mobile games, I decided to go with this type of look, because again, that way they're less cartoonish and they are more appropriate to reality. Again, unfortunately right here they don't have any hands and any legs, and it couldn't be possible for us to showcase them in some type of like holding a cup. So that's why this type of style would basically create restrictions for us. We don't need restrictions, that's why we couldn't use it. But again, if we have this one as a reference, it's always a cool thing, because it actually helps us to deal with things, or at least know how we could approach it if we would choose a different project. Because again, everything that you learn along the way by creating your projects, everything can create possibilities, and the rest is if you're willing to see these possibilities or not. I tried to see possibilities from every angle, and if I see something that I like, and if I see something that I could use in the future, I definitely will use it in the future. But there's a thin line, because you kind of quickly can drift away from what you initially tried to do and just lost yourself in search. That's why staying to the topic is always the main thing, But again, if you stumble upon something that could help you in your potential future projects, save it. Create a different artboard for it and just save it. Yeah, there's not that much information now, so the more we go, the less scenes we have. We could go into specifics. Let's just try to put red here. That could definitely sort out some. So this pose, or not pose, but at least this is the closest how we can see wings closer to the mouth, you know, in a red pose. So I guess we will save it too. Yeah, it's all about opportunities. More extensive search I will definitely make on YouTube, and I guess by searching some type of scenes from Angry Birds movie, and then I will just save them and on computer, capture them on computer, and basically show you in the next stream probably after I will do it. So again, since I can't do this live because it could provide some copyright issues, I think I have to do it separately. But still, again, it's pretty easy. You just go to YouTube, you just open this type of video, put it in a full screen mode or not full screen mode. By the way, the cool thing about Firefox, I didn't notice it before, it can save these small chunks of information, so it will help you to crop a particular portion of video without saving the whole thing, the whole YouTube interface, which is a pretty cool thing to do though. Definitely will use this one for that. That way it will definitely look like you actually saved it from the movie and not from a YouTube, which is a cool thing. So let's refresh our Angry Birds Point Cybertron attending a tea party. So again, we have some type of idea how we could place Jack. We have this picture which clearly states the closest thing to post what I actually want him to kind of depict him. Yeah, we also could search like with familiarities, like here, right here. Oh, hello there. See something in here. Oh, hands closed. Again, it's cool that the pictures, the poses that I actually pictured in these characters are pretty close to the poses that they made in the movie itself. And I saw a movie like years ago, probably before, yeah, in the time that this movie was in theaters. And somehow it's still kind of, I put it in my memory, and I didn't even think that I will use it in the future. So that's why it's always a good thing to, when you're watching movies, actually try to gather this information, try to pick up these poses, pick up these pretty interesting and cool positions, because you could basically that way you are restoring them in your brain in subclusters of your mind, and then when you need them, they kind of extract themselves when it's needed. Um, that's why I guess if you're watching something, if you actually like it, you will definitely kind of put in your visual memory bank pretty a lot of information. The same, for instance, for this pose. Again, how could I picture Chuck in this particular pose? Because I don't remember this scene in the movie at all. I don't even know where they are. And somehow my brain come up with something closer to the pose in a movie. Like, probably my brain is basically extracted the information that I had before, like years ago, and somehow used it as something that I kind of come up with. Pretty interesting. I like how brain is mysterious and getting pretty fast. Getting, how you probably say it. So basically, I am amazed by the things that our brain is capable of, and since scientists still don't understand the brain fully, it's a pretty cool thing to kind of be open to all possibilities that brain has and not restricted by anything. Again, the most poses, of course, we could gather is for red, and the less poses are going to be for Bubbles, because Bubbles is a pretty limited character and it's not that important. Okay, right here we could use his eye direction. This one's pretty cool too. We need some bubbles. Okay, let's just go to a bomb. Whoa. That is crazy. Never saw a bomb like this. Hello, this is like the pole. This is something that actually I could imagine as a pose for a bomb or expression. Because again, we can't create these expressions unless we have some type of information about them. Brain doesn't work like this. Brain has to have some type of information in order to produce something. You can't just like extract from your mind something that aren't there. For me, from the beginning, when I started learning drawing and painting and all this artistic journey, when I started my artistic journey, I couldn't understand it, so I kind of thought to myself that, screw it, I don't need references, I can do it all by myself. But the problem is, nope, you can't. You need references, or you need at least to work on your visual library, because every artist creates something from his or her visual library. No artist just like creating things from thin air. Everything is based on something, based on experience, based on imagination, and all things that our imagination has, it's all based on things that we are encountered in our life. Either it's films that we watched, either it's books that we read, or stories that we are told, or whatever. So imagination is basically the result of our reality, or the experience of our reality, the things that we watched, things that we encountered in our life again. So, and we need to understand that, and it took me a long time to figure out that this is the case, or at least I probably knew it from the beginning, but I kind of thought that it's not true, because I didn't want to spend countless hours to reference gathering stages. Yeah, so I kind of wanted to go right away into creating, and no, unfortunately it doesn't work like that. Again, if you're experienced artist and you have like pretty rich library and you're pretty familiar with a subject that you're drawing or painting, in that way, yes, you can go right away into work. But if you're not familiar with what you're drawing, you have to get familiar with it. You have to search, study, understand, read everything that you can about the subject that you are going to draw. Okay, this is pretty close to what would I imagine. Actually, there was a better picture which actually depicted there in full height. Let me just find it. Or I guess let's just save it in Pinterest. Then we will search familiar one. And that way we then delete this one. Should I do that? Yeah, for some reason Pinterest is pretty slow on... Oh, I don't have related prints for something that was added by the way. Maybe I already added something somewhere before. Yeah, for some reason Pinterest is not that optimized for Firefox. I don't know why. Oh, we already have this, so we don't need it. It's a little bit differently, but still. We already have this one, so we probably don't need it either. So yeah, let's delete this one. We already have it. Delete. And I'm not sure about that though. Are we have the same? Yes, this is actually the same. It's kind of mirrored, but it's the same. So we can delete this one. Okay, let's just see what we could find about bomb. The more information that we have about, the better. But I guess in my mind I kind of have already enough information, because again, if I will be using, like, his hand's going to be right here, I have this information. Direction of eyes, brows, eyebrows, yeah, on almost everything I guess I have information needed. And since he is the furthest character, I don't think that he's going to be like the main focus, so that's why we actually can make things a little bit simpler in terms of research. Yeah, let's go with Chuck. Maybe we could find something interesting about Chuck. Oh, I already said this, yes? Let's go and... Yeah, that's not right. Chuck. The crazy one! Chuck! Oh, this is how we could depict him holding a cup of tea, which is a cool thing. this one we could use. And it's a good thing when you have these type of references, because in some projects that you create, you're not going to be able to find these type of references that like pretty close to what you want to do. But again, it all depends on how complex your project and how far from reality your project, because the closer to reality your project, the better chances to find something in web that could help you, and the further from reality your project, the harder it becomes. But still, that way you still have some type of you still can find this information, but it's going to be harder because information that you are going to be searching is not going to be direct. So right here I'm kind of searching with a direct frames, so I kind of working with specific Angry Birds movie, and for that I'm kind of finding actually specific things in this movie that I could use. But if I would work with something that probably doesn't have these things, oh, this is pretty cool. That would definitely create a problem. And how we would tackle this problem, I guess, is by making some type of, so I don't know how do you properly put it. Here, let's just save this one. Could work. Yeah, this type of face is the face that I would probably imagine for Chuck in this particular moment. He has to be like over the top crazy in our picture. This one I think we already have. But yeah, I didn't finish previous thought because I kind of, it's hard to put thoughts together and say that properly in English. I kind of know how I would say it in Russian, of course, but again, this is one of the problems that I'm going to encounter at the beginning of my journey on Twitch, I guess. I definitely going to be struggle in formulating my thoughts properly. That's why I actually started to stream Magic the Gathering and to just study, because kinda I want to learn English in a practical way by streaming something that has a lot of English in it, and you actually need to understand a bunch of things to play Magic. So now we beginning to storm from main focus. So for Chuck again, let's just see if we have enough information for Chuck. We have enough information for Red, definitely. I don't think that we need more information for Red. Now for Bomb, I think we have all information needed to. If not, we will come up with something on the next stage, because again, there's going to be a much more detailed search which I'm going to use by watching videos on YouTube and basically capturing particular scenes, which is not going to be recorded on streams, and I guess like extensive research of that kind is going to be separate. And also I think I will make the same type of research for Transformers. I think most of today's stream is going to be based on reference search, uh, because a lot of things to search, actually, a lot of things to do. But if we manage to finish earlier with this, it would be probably cool. But I don't think so, because in my mind I kind of want to spend appropriate amount of time to this in order to put in my mind as much poses as possible and as much information about these as possible, because again, that way I will definitely be sure about what I'm going to draw. And some of the poses, by the way, by looking at these, I kind of but basically putting in my visual library interesting poses that I could then implement. So I'm going to use poses not only that I saved or as a reference, but kind of also things that I remembered in my visual library by this reference search. So if you're just searching for something and analyzing something for that to be something that you could use, it doesn't mean that you're wasting your time. No, you're still putting all this information in your visual memory or bank. Okay, this one I could use in terms of it's not that good of a quality here, but we don't need good quality. We need general motion. Why it's so long? Doesn't work for some reason. Maybe because this is... No, okay, let's just skip it. Yeah, again, just this is more than enough information. So yeah, we have pretty cool things about Jack. So his craziness, pose, how his movements are working, how he's holding a cup, how he's even holding something other than a cup. We always can use this type of extensive search. Oh, you actually can save GIFs right here. Cool. Guess I didn't save this one before. Let's save it. Oh, this one, in terms of a silhouette, could help us. Saving GIFs actually a pretty good idea, because GIFs have a bunch of movements and motions that could actually help you to kind of picture some particular poses. So probably be searching GIFs too. back and try to find something similar to for bomb, because fortunately we don't have that much information on bomb. Is this it? There's no related pins. They are. Okay, this is a good way to showcase how would all of them sit on something similar to our chairs. And I still didn't figure out how our chairs can go into look like final. Seeing something here. It's not always like apparent what you can use. Again, sometimes it works like in inspirational reference gathering search. When you're kind of run out of particular things and detailed things, then you're starting to search for something that just you see some type of potential in it. And if you see some potential in something, you just better save it, because your mind kind of will use it automatically when you're starting to draw. Because when you're starting to draw, of course, the layering system becomes working. Start working. I'll just get rid of reference. So yeah, when you start drawing, this layering system is working too, because the more lines you put in, the more visual information you have, and the closer to final work you are. That's why, so of course you can't right away draw something realistically. First you start with lines, then these lines become some type of a shape, then this shape is becoming something that you see, and then you're basically slowly creating something from it. But again, the more information you kind of see, the closer it's starting to look something to you, and kind of quickly creating some type of a character. Pretty broken character, but character. And again, I didn't imagine this. I just started to draw something, and it just drew it by itself. Because visualization is working. Wait a minute. So yeah, and all these references that I kind of talked about that you save outside of a particular search, your mind will automatically use them, definitely. So the only character that we don't have any information about is Bubbles. So the Bubbles has the most unfamiliar pose from all of them. So let's just get back and try to find about Bubbles something. Then we will go on a short break, and we'll continue to work with a reference search on different subjects, such as statues, probably table, Quintessa, or something like that. Again, using this type of search by searching from the movie scenes, because again, we tried to search with an inspirational search by particular things, and we didn't find much. And right now, when we're going to go into specifics, we need to go in a specific area that we're working with. And since I'm working with basically depicting in Cybertron from the movie and Angry Birds from their movie, I basically need to use scene cuts as a references to what I'm wanting to, what I imagine, to put it in reality. So yeah, bubbles, bubbles. I don't see anything bubbles. It's kind of pretty. So wait a sec. I need to turn on the light because I don't see anything. It's pretty dark right here. Let the light be! Let the light be, or... Okay. Let's just try to gather information about bubbles. Yeah, that's what I talked about. So bubbles is basically sometimes becoming a big one. Since we don't have any information about bubbles, I think I will save everything that we have about bubbles. I'm not going to choose go into specifics because unfortunately I can't allow this type of search because we don't have again that much information about bubbles. I don't even remember bubbles in the movie. No, I remember it for like the final. But before that was not that much information about him. Or her. I'm still not sure. Bubbles. Give us more information about bubbles. Give us more information about bubbles. Wait a minute. Did I save it? Nope. Again, I'm doing everything to make final work look as good as possible, but I can't predict anything. Like, I could spend so much time on this and work could, in the end, in the result, not going to look good. But again, if you're not trying, let me say this. And one of the challenges, of course, that we are working with this type of form. I think I already have something familiar, but I will still save it. Because I think right here he has a little bit different look to it. So yeah, we don't have that much bubbles in here. Bubbles. Okay, let's just go in Google search and just try to search separately for them. Maybe we'll find something in this way. Hello, proportion chart. Actually, I would save this one to basically figure out their proportions. It's something that could benefit us earlier, on earlier stages. Again, your abilities, well, you have to kind of work even on your search skills, because since the making a research and reference gathering stages are that important, you have to do them efficiently too and use every possible information. And since I didn't do that necessarily before, I'm kind of learning on the go too, and not everything is going to be like right away. Most information will come slowly. No, I don't think that we have something about bubbles like this. Let's just again see Chuck separately. Nothing. Boom. I don't know. Don't see much new information that we could use. Yeah, and of course, if you're kind of going into too deep of the search, when you already kind of feel that in reality, I think I already have all information needed at this stage, but some part of me, of course, kind of feels that it's not enough. And in these cases, it means that you're probably procrastinating because, again, you are kind of scared of the next step. So I guess I am in this type of position right now. I'm a little bit scared of the next step. That's why I'm kind of doing unnecessary search, because I already have almost all things that I need, I guess. But it's never a bad thing to double check things, but sometimes it could be a bad thing. Did I save this one? I don't remember. Probably I am. So yeah, we didn't find anything about bubbles. Just go back to our movie scenes. That would be a cool thing to find animation GIFs. No, I think we already found all the information that we need. Yeah, let's just stop at this point, take a quick break, and after that we will continue with a reference search that will be covered, that we are going to cover the surroundings, I guess. I will think on what to search next. Actually need to think about it. So either we are going to search the accessories, tablecloth. Again, neither of our birds, they're not interacting with the floor. They are interacting with chairs. These type of questions I think we answered by this reference search. And interacting with table, not evident, so it didn't concern me. And table accessories, again, somewhat have some type of references, what we could find. And interactions in between birds, we covered. The next thing that we're going to search is our accessories, which is going to be pretty funny because we're going to search for a tablecloth and table itself, and basically cups, teacups, and a bunch of accessories for a tea party. That's going to be pretty fun thing to do, because it's not something that you usually search when you're working on projects. So this is definitely going to be funny. So the whole reference search is going to be aimed at No, actually, Firefox is pretty laggy on Pinterest. I don't know why. Like Opera works awesome on Pinterest. It's not lagging at all. But right here it's kind of laggy. So yeah, all type of references that we're going to search on our table accessories. So I'm going to cover these things. These pretty things. Yeah, we're going to search all kinds of things. This type of reference search is not going to be that big. I think, because again, this is not that much important stuff. This is a secondary focus, but it's not that important for us to showcase its design in all details. We could go vague and make something just to look realistic and familiar. Again, we're using our secondary focus as a, where is this? Yes, as a proportional base for our viewers to depict something real life size. So we're not going to change their design too far from reality. All these things are basically going to look the same as in real life. So let's just make a quick break, and after that we will continue. Now quick break is going to be a little bit different, so I'm going to put a countdown thing and then use this one. This is a new we'll be back in a minute screen. Yeah. So yeah, we'll be back in a minute. And I'm back. Yeah, let's continue. Fresh water, a little bit of stretching and walking. It's pretty refreshing. And good for health. So yeah, we will continue. So yeah, I guess the next thing that we are going to search is our table accessories. Also, the question is, how would I approach? Either I searching everything and then go into drawing it, or I search one thing, drawing it, then search the other thing, drawing it. Yeah, I think it could be probably the best way to approach this if I would first search and then draw everything. So search everything and then draw everything, because if I do it separately, I'm not going to see everything as a whole. I'm kind of going to work on separate things, and since we're working with a illustration, everything has to be cohesive. So
in that way, we need to focus only on things that we are doing. Yeah.
Don't ask me what this was. It's just sometimes I like to talk different voices with different voices. Yeah. Let's go into the next type of search. So now we are going to search for accessories. Again, the only questions that we are kind of having in mind while dealing with accessories is, of course, we need to also keep in mind how they are interacting with our characters. So for instance, if we're going to design some type of a teacup, we need to search for a particular teacup design that has not like small handles, but actually a big handles, which kind of, it's not a teacup. It's more like a, I don't know, giant cup. Because they have like their wings, and I don't know, we need to decide how they are going to interact with wings, because if we have like small handle, then only one part of the wing will be here and the rest is going to be gathered right here. So assuming that this is a wing of the bird and this is a part of a finger or part of the feather that represents finger. So yeah, this is going to be a pretty hard thing to do for us, I think. When you're dealing with things for the first time, it's always uncomfortable because you don't know how things are going to look, you don't know how things are going to work, and basically you need to figure out everything on the go. And yeah, as I say, welcome to Sandbox Life. It's true sandbox when you're trying to figure out everything live. Potentially it's pretty interesting series, but again, I'm seeing potential in it, others maybe don't, so I'm sticking to my opinion. I think that this could be a thing that actually could provide pretty interesting experience for the beginners and for artists or people who are actually only starting to learn, because again, I dealt with these problems and I'm still dealing with them, and now I kind of know how to tackle these problems, and if I don't, I know how to figure out, at least I'm trying to figure out how to do it, these type of processes, this is actually something that if I had before, I would definitely benefit from them. But since I hadn't, now it's time to create something like this for others, I think. And also by learning myself. So yeah, learning to do all these things by myself too. Yeah, let's just continue our search with the cups. I think for that we're not necessarily going to use Google search. I think for that we could simply use these references that we already encountered, and then just see something familiar with it, because everything is connected to a tea party right here. So since I'm kind of think that I definitely want to depict, so one thing that I'm 100% about. Oh, wait a minute. So I want to check one thing. So let's just go into good birds. So if I'm just like doing this, it's pretty laggy. But what if I do this? Is this less laggy? Probably, but still pretty laggy. If I'm scrolling like this and I'm making it less, because I would definitely use for this Firefox, because yeah, this actually less laggy. If you go it fast, so yeah. Maybe it's because I already skipped it. I guess you need like first load into cache in order or into cookies in order to make it less laggy. Laggy. Okay. Focus, man. Come on. Focus. Oh. Yeah, I forget what I wore before. So we had to search for table accessories. Yes. So yeah, what I want to talk about, I definitely sure that I want to showcase right here something like either something like sweet, so either like plates or plates with some type of a holder, and there's a sweet sitting here, so I'm picturing something like this, and I will definitely try to find something like this, and on top something interesting. I don't know, maybe pretty interesting silhouette that could create some unique with the interesting design. Oh, you see? So right away it's already looks like some type of a design sketch. And since we are working with a small size, again, this is no, this is not 100%. Where is 100%? Give me 100%, please. I don't remember where to choose it. Here and 100%. Yeah, this is our 100% zoom, and of course, you can looking from that far. This is more than enough information for a suggestive design. You don't need to go into more details. That's why working with thumbnails is pretty beneficial. You don't get into details, and there's a less lines, but these small amount of lines helping you to picture things, say, in a better way, probably. Yeah. Everything actually looks like a pile of poop for me, especially this one that's on top. Either this is some type of a flame, either this is a pile of poop. Everything in this project seems for me like a pile of poop for some reason. I don't know. Can't explain it. Okay, so let's find something that doesn't look like a pile of poop and hope that it will. The hardest thing is going to be with transformers. Oh, my mind is killing me. I said before that the thing that I don't like about transformers in terms of their design, they're too complex, and when I see these type of a complex machinery, my mind is kind of don't know where to go, and I think it's almost the same for every human who actually encountered transformers, like in not real life, of course. In terms of I don't know, maybe this is only thing for artists, because when artist sees that type of complexity, he or she kind of thinks to himself or herself that, oh, come on, how hard how hard it is, that, like, basically you're kind of respecting the people who created Transformers in terms of their design, because not because these designs look cool, or probably only because they are complex. And you know that in order to create such a complexity, like, this is all modeled in 3D, and you kind of beginning to respect the artists who were behind their computer and modeled all these things. Of course, I think there's not it definitely not was one person. Probably, of course, there's the whole department, but still you're kind of starting to gain respect for that. But the problem that it actually creates for like trying to make fan art off of it is that you definitely wouldn't want to depict these much details, because it's not necessary. But still, if you're not, then the essence of a particular transformer will not be presented properly. So, and that's why my brain is kind of trying to prepare. I try to prepare myself for this complexity, and I don't know how to work with it. This such complexity I never worked with before, and trying to make something of this complexity is going to be definitely challenging. But still, it's things to come. So let's continue. So yeah, again, either I would make something like this right here, so it's going to be like something looking similar to a cake, and on top of the cake we are going to have something like this, like. So yeah, let's just make things happen. Oh, this is actually funny. Angry birds and the regular birds, which is going to be pretty interesting contrast. Oh, this actually looks pretty cool. Maybe we will make our idea even more interesting by adding these type of creative things. This is cool too. So yeah, right here you're just basically searching for something that could potentially be creative enough and at the same time not too far from reality, again, since we have to find something that represents already forgot, that represents proportional base. For our viewers, we need to stick to reality, because again, if we will go too far from reality, it definitely, we actually can go for pretty far from reality as long as it's still clear in terms of the proportions. So we could create these type of things, but we need to do it carefully. Okay, yeah, so yeah, I kind of pictured something like this. So some type of a stand with the suite. And the fancier is going to look, the fancier this thing is going to look, the funnier it will be, I think. Because again, when you see these interesting contrasts between pink things on the table or white things on the table, and colorful Angry Birds and dark world of the Transformers and Cybertron, it actually creates pretty interesting contrast this way. And this is one of the things that I definitely need to think of at the same time, because the whole thing is to kind of separate all of the three, but at the same time make them the same, like as one. And this is a pretty hard thing to do. We also could add some type of balance to it, for instance, by adding some dark things into onto our table accessories, or into our table accessories, which could balance out the dark things in a Transformers world. But that way we could run into problems of basically that this type of overlapping is not going to be evident and they're just blend with each other, and this is a bad thing. We don't need blending now, we need to separate these things and make them with a good contrast. So these suites look fine. Yeah, these are pretty small for you, I guess, but still, as long as you see the whole picture, like, whoa. Yeah, this is a big thing. So right now I'm trying to search things that I definitely want to put on a table. Because again, I don't know what actually is going to present on the table, but one thing that we definitely need to put on the table is this big thing with a stand with sweets. That's one thing that has to be present on our table, because this is one of the things that could represent some type of a party, because these type of things are used in the birthdays, on different type of occasions, weddings, I guess, and etc. So this type of representation definitely showcase this is not just like regular. So they're not just drinking tea like daily. They're actually like thrown a party, and yay! Inside out. Of course, we're not going to add this one, but still pretty cool idea. Okay. Definitely somewhere there's going to be a teapot. We definitely go to teapot when we're gathering other information with these ones. Then we will go into search a teapot. For now, I don't know, I see something in it, but at the same time not. And I don't want to make it too complex. I want to make it as simple as possible. Of course, the cool thing would be if I like created something like this, or like was with Inside Out. This is from Alice in Wonderland. So basically, if I would create a themed cake or the themed stand, I could do this, but again, this way it kind of distracts attention from Angry Birds. And I still want to keep it close to reality, and since we are working with almost every object and subject in our scene too far from reality, Angry Birds, Transformers, and Cybertron, we need something to represent reality in order to compare it to reality. Or we need to have reality in order to compare it to everything unrealistic in our piece, because that way it will create some type of thing for the viewer to relate to. Because when we see something that is unfamiliar for us, our brain like right away rejects it. But if we have something that looks familiar to us, it kind of draws our attention a little bit more. So yeah, I definitely not going to create a cake. It would be probably much more easier. You just have to create cylinders on top of each other. I actually want to create some type of like much more interesting things. So I would definitely put there some type of sweets, maybe cupcakes, maybe some type of oranges, like fruits. I don't know, something to make this party a little bit more interesting. And again, if I will go into this theme, these type of themes, we will definitely lose the element of reality, because again, this one looks cool, but the problem with it that for our project it's not working because it's too far from reality, and we can't allow to lose this reality element. Yeah. How could I skip this one? So right now I'm basically looking at these type of so-called stands. How they called this? Cupcake cone. Cupcake cone. That we're basically working on a cupcake cone. A lot of new stuff to learn. Yeah, this one for the wedding. I already saved this one probably. Nope. No, I'm not necessarily wanted to save it though. Okay, let's just go to the teapots. We will start with this one. Looks pretty cool design wise. Just go back, and this is actually teapot cake. the only bad thing about Pinterest that he can't sort these photos. It would be a cool thing if I actually can sort them, but I guess Pinterest can do this. For instance, if I could drag and place all necessary photos in one place and then others, because basically they're saved, so they're not sorted, which is kind of a bad thing, I guess. But it's not that important. As long as we have all our references in one place, it's cool. Ideally, I would definitely sort these by relation to a separate object or subject in our game, or in our not game, but picture. So again, everything that relates to Angry Birds would be in one place. Everything that in terms of the characters, things that relates to Transformer worlds would be in another place, and that way I would definitely could create like a separate folders for them. But the problem with this is much more time consuming in terms of it's more organized way, but so you don't have these chaotically placed things. So let's just slowly go into teapots. Again, if we're going to search for teapots, we will basically going to work with the teapot cakes. So let's just search for the teapot only. We don't need teapots. Teapot. Teapot. Whoa. There's the teapots, all shapes and sizes, with all type of designs. Teapot and then tea party. I think this would be much more appropriate to search for. Regular teapot would be a good idea. Not necessarily have to create this type of complex designs, because again, this type of complex designs would be far from reality. We will definitely lose this element of reality. Also, the teacups, they definitely have to be a part of our search. We will go to them a little bit later. For now, let's just focus on teapots. So what we need for a tea party, I think we need some type of decorative elements to it. So this one would be our decorational element. So is the element that could provide food or some type of sweets to our tea party. Of course, we definitely need to have some type of a teapot with a tea. Never attended a real tea party, so I don't know what usually there. So yeah, usually you have like plates, teapots, some type of decoration, and I'm not going to draw a vase with a flowers in it. It seems unnecessary, and it definitely could take me a lot of time. We don't have that much time, so we need to work with a limited elements to not go too far. Okay, this one probably could benefit us in some way. again, I'm not just seeing this one or searching for this one. I constantly looking at my table and see or constantly trying to picture how these characters placed. So this is one of the kind of benefits to having two monitors. So in one monitor you actually see your picture frame and supposed sketch, and on the other you are searching for the things that you could place on this table. So now you have like a final camera angle, you have things that you want to place in particular places or parts of the table, and then you're just basically trying to add this new information right here in your mind. Teacups with the tea, it's a good idea. Interesting teapots with a much more unique design, not just simple. I still have like not one of the questions that I didn't answer in terms of a what is going to be printed on these plates in terms of a, how do you properly say it? Wait a minute. Yeah, we definitely need to place some type of patterns on our plates and on our accessories, because again, I don't think that they are going to be completely white or gray or whatever. So I definitely need to think about that, but we will think about these type of things more on later stages when we are going to work with materials and actual textures. So this is basically the stage for materials and textures. Okay. Pretty interesting design for plates, but again, I definitely don't want them to look not round, so I think I will stick to round plates. Positioning, it's one of the things, or arranging table, it's one of the things that could help us so depict it more realistically. These type of stands or suites on a plate probably could be a good thing, because again, we have pretty big table, and we wouldn't want to make this table too empty, because most of the plates are already in the bird's hands, so, or their wings. That means that table will look pretty empty, and we have to create like the feeling of a party. We definitely don't want to overload table with too many elements, but still we want to provide enough elements to make it more realistic. And also it will be much more comedically outrageous, because, like, come on, this is a Cybertron. What all these pretty and awesome accessories are doing here? Plates. Could place something like this on a table, like plates one on one another, but again, it seems pretty unnecessary because there are only 4 Angry Birds. Did I say this one? Too far from real. Pretty interesting teapot. regular teacups. Oh yeah, let's just look for the teacups, I guess. I guess it's time. So since most of the teacups are in Angry Bird's hands, we need to kind of search for teacups that could ideally fit into Angry Bird's hands or wings. And again, since they're having pretty interesting, so I guess they can shape their wings to hold something in different ways, pretty similar to humans, but since they don't have like bones out there, it's just like feathery. In terms of realism, it creates like a little bit of problems, so kind of figure out how it looks and how it works. So we're not going to go into too much realism there. Okay, this is like the regular holder. So basically right now we are kind of searching for a cup holder. Not holder, but handle. Yeah, cup holder is something different, I guess. Yeah, we are basically looking at the design of a cup handle that could be appropriate for the birds. Oh, I would definitely picture something like this. But again, it's not a teacup. Doesn't look like teacup, it's a chocolate cup. Teacups are more like something like this, pretty close to this one. This actually have pretty broad, pretty far from the main body of the cup, this handle, and that way we could actually make Angry Bird's wings follow along. These type of things too could be pretty cool. This one is not particularly round, but it's close. By the way, with them we are also kinda at the same time as finding an answer for a plate for the teacup. Could depict something like this, like a small base, skewed base. Yeah, one of the problems that I'm actually facing, that all these things are called, of course, differently in Russian, and when I try to figure out how they are named in English, it's kind of hard, because for some things you just basically don't find proper description. For instance, in Russian, all these table accessories are called service, and if you of course try to search service you just basically going into service, which is not something that appropriate. I think probably there are a word, or there is a word that kind of describes like these type of accessories, but let's just call them accessories because I don't know another word for now. Okay, what we could place on our table except these things, or beside them, these things. What? Yeah. Finally. Yeah. So if I don't want things to lag here, I guess I need to... No, they're still lagging when they're first loading. Okay, I guess this is enough information about teacups again for this particular moment, at this particular moment, because the only thing that I need to kind of understand is basically to figure out its basic design shape. I don't need to go into complex like trying to figure out how the end design is going to look. Again, all these things are going to be for now like pretty vague, and since we're going to be too far, all these small elements are not that necessary. But again, if I have this information, it's definitely it definitely allows me to deal with this problem at this particular stage better. So let's just figure out what else we could place on the table in terms of a decorative elements. This looks pretty cool. Yeah, place this one on the table. So the only way to figure out how basically tables are arranged is to look at these type of references. Of course, since they are Angry Birds, I don't think that they go into create some type of arranging or proper arranging. I think it's going to be pretty chaotic, but it still has to be party-wise, so pretty accurate, but not that accurate. So like you're setting a tea party for a queen, and when everything has to be perfect, but still have to think about placement and what type of elements you would place there. Oh, actually you can put there even this. So yeah, this is pretty awesome reference in terms of what I could use for that. These type of containers for a different sweets. A little bit of decoration. I know how they called in English properly. Let's figure it out. Some type of towels, but I don't know the proper name for this particular instance. I guess table towels? I don't know. Let's just call them table towels. Table towels. Did I pin this? Or I forgot. Yes, I pinned this. Again, like details, what type of sweets are going to be there, it's all definitely going to be on later stages, I guess, or at least when we are going to final reference gathering stage, or not final, but should I say the next reference gathering stage, which is going to be a fifth stage. But for now, I guess the only thing that I'm interested in is just basic information. But again, sometimes you're lost in search. As I said before, it's pretty easy to be lost in search. When you start searching, you kind of sometimes just it seems like there's no end to it, because that's why you always have to ask your questions: do I have enough information? or do I need to extend the search and I don't have enough information? And it's pretty hard question to answer, because in reality you can have this information, but your brain is still unsure, and because it's this uncertainty, you still kind of want to search more. So yeah, again, your brain is kind of divided into parts. One part of you thinks that you don't have enough information, the other part definitely knows that you have enough information, but yeah, they kind of fighting each other. I guess that's it in terms of what I would depict from this. Let's go to another subject. Let's work with the tablecloth. Yeah, not Russian. Tablecloth. Tablecloth. Let's just for now see all tablecloths, and then we will think about for the tea party itself. So what we are actually searching with the tablecloth, the funny thing is, when you kind of asking the first question, okay, how hard it could be to draw a tablecloth or design tablecloth. There's nothing hard about it, like it's just a cloth. You just draw the cloth, that's it. But when you go into like specific search, you actually trying to understand that there's apparently different different designs for every tablecloth. For instance, you could make this type of ornament around it, and it completely will change how this cloth is going to behave. So there's a bunch of things to every aspect, so there's no easy things. For instance, if you add this type of design element, it definitely adds to it and the more ideas like this you will have, the better your visual library will grow. And next time that you are going to draw a tablecloth, now you are going to have much more rich view in terms of variety of these tablecloths. You're not just going to draw regular tablecloth without any patterns in it. And usually it's not just only patterns, it's the type of cloth is the layers of cloth. For instance, I think right here we have two layers, one on top and the other one underneath. These type of things completely changing how fabric is going to behave itself. For instance, right here, it's the round table creates a little bit different behavior. We also have to think about table 2, so this one, it's all mostly this is the question of patterns and materials and textures, but still, if you will know where to search right now, then when you go into the final stage, you're already going to have some type of information. And the good thing is, the beneficial thing is, on this stage, if you're trying to think about this, that you will know what to search next in the next stages, because if I would not try to search this one right now, then by going on the final reference gathering stage, I would definitely didn't have any idea how to work with the tablecloth. But now, since I'm kind of going through these type of things, these type of stages, I already picturing something in my mind, and it will definitely help me to bring this to reality better. It's pretty hard to talk when you are trying to think about what you would use. And again, the language barrier of some kind can a little bit bother me. Yeah, it seemed like, oh come on, how many things you could search for a tablecloth? You would be imagined. There's a bunch of things to every aspect. If thing seems easy, it doesn't mean that it's easy. Everything sooner or later will go into complexity. If you want it to go into complexity, of course. If I wouldn't like bothered too much about tablecloth, I would definitely skip it and just draw a regular one that I'm picturing in my mind, that I'm encountered in my life, and they're not that different from every tablecloth that you would probably see in real life. But if I actually want to create something interesting and by doing that actually grow and put in my visual library as much more new designs as possible, even with this seem unnecessary thing, which is the tablecloth for our project. I still think that this is a good thing to do. So yeah, I guess now it's getting repetitive. Nothing new in terms of a design I could see. So yeah, we could add these type of elements, but we're not going to. The only thing that I guess we need to search for a tablecloth around the table. Because, again, as I said before, cloth is going to behave differently on a different type of table, and with a round table, of course, we have a different behavior of our tablecloth. So we need to, of course, keep in mind this element. Not completely a round table. I'm not going to use a round table, but it's going to be pretty close to round, though. Ow, that was not cool. Round table, round table. Is this a semi-round table? Such thing. Semi-round. I'll just try. Who knows? I don't think that this is a such thing, but I need a little bit of bevel in table, so I'm not going. I don't want to like create. Oh, actually, I already saved one picture of a round table, or the type of table that I would depict. So this one is something that I would imagined, and this one. So if I would create for a table some type of roundness on an angles by making it not sharp but soft, I would definitely go with this. So let's just search with this one. Maybe we'll find something. Okay. Again, the only thing why we're making this search is to understand how fabric is going to behave. Because again, if we have like sharp table, fabric will behave a little bit differently. I will talk more about how to work with fabric in the future. I have a lot of useful information about how to deal with the fabric, but when we're working with the table, it's not that important to go into details, because again, it's just a table. It's kind of the same. Basically, I'm searching for similar patterns of fabric behavior to quickly figure it out without overanalyzing. How fabric is going to behave. That actually creates pretty interesting shape. Not yeah, that's it. I think this is enough. So yeah, okay, we covered a tablecloth, we covered a table itself, because again, this is just a board, and this board is going to be on top of Quintessa. The question is this is going to be a board, or is this going to be a table? Under the table is going to be a Quintessa. So if it's going to be a table, then we need to think about actual legs for the table. So let's just search table. I think it would be a cool thing to have in our full library. Okay, let's just go with a T table. Because if we are going to search only table, it would be painful, too much information. That way we could provide some type of a more direct, I think, search, more particular search. Yeah, I don't think that this type of thing is going to look on Cybertron pretty well. In terms of, like, this is too complex design, we need something simpler. Let's just go with designs. I think this table is definitely going to be four-legged table with the four legs, because again we need to put Quintessa under this table. So, and this table is going to be pretty low, so in terms of the height, it's definitely not going to have these things in it. But the problem with tables and with every type of construction, when you build this type of construction in order to make it stable and not just broke right away, you need to put some type of a, I don't know, holders for it, or that will make this much more stable. Either you put something like this that helps make table more stable. You can even put them a little bit lower. I don't know, maybe we should use this reference if we're not going to find any. We're at least going to have some type of understanding how we would tackle the table. Yeah, there's our two unrealistic designs in terms of they're too designish. We need something like modern, not modern, something old school, I guess. Let's just go with the furniture. No, let's just go with the design. I think without design. Pretty cool. Yeah, right now I can imagine how much work I need to do still in terms of like making this project quality project, and my mind is gonna got explode right away, because right now I can imagine how when I start working with materials, when I start working with different type of materials like metal, like glass, glass, if glass is going to be there, specular material like plates and cups, translucent materials such as bread or some type of sweets. Ooh, my mind is kind of already starting to go too far, and it becomes pretty frustrating when you're trying to tackle all these problems all at once. But I like to think about them at the beginning, like to know where I'm going to go, know the direction, and know where to finish. But the problem is, when you start working on things and working one by one, and like spending a big amount of time on all of these things, the more you spend time on one thing, the harder it gets, because you have less time on the other thing. And I kind of already had to, in reality, finish this project, and I'm still working on it, and it's kind of getting frustrated. So yeah, I'm basically, and now when you're in this type of positions, you have to do like a couple of things. First, you could choose just basically rush this project and just for the sake of ending it, end it, because you're kind of tired of it. And not that I'm tired of it, I'm just kind of trying to understand and beginning to understand that in order to make this project quality project, you need to spend a lot of time on it. And sometimes it's kind of why it makes me frustrated, because I would rather spend this amount of time on creating something personal than creating some type of fan art for a challenge. No matter how cool the challenge is, and it's cool, this challenge that actually will help me a lot, and it already helps me to kind of understand how these things works and how to properly kind of work with fan art. So yeah, it's definitely helpful, but in reality I would definitely spend less time on it. But I kind of fight in my mind with two things. Should I produce a quality project and not focus on speed? And yes, it could take me time, some time, but that way I actually learn more. So basically I am operating with this theory, operating with the fact that I have like a lot of knowledge, and I will produce less amount of work, but that way I will learn more, because again, I'm thinking about things that actually artists have to think. But the problem is that because every artist usually has deadline, usually he or she has to drop off such things as extensive search if he or she doesn't have enough time. But again, since I don't have deadline, and I could work on this project like forever, but I don't want to work on this project forever, because I have projects that I worked on forever and they still not finished, and I finally want to create something finished. and I need to kind of learn how to do it properly. And when I'm starting or to work on a project, I'm kind of picturing, oh cool, 2 weeks and I will be done with it. But when I'm starting working on it, time passes so fast that like 1 day goes, 2 days goes, then like week, then second week, then hello month, then 2 months, and it's kind of becomes frustrating. The more time you put in some particular project, the more frustrated it gets, especially when you're not. If you didn't, how do you probably say? Yeah, if you basically was not ready for this project to go so long or that long. And I actually didn't plan that I will do this project too long, because usually I am this type of like things like I'm doing right now, I usually would do for my personal projects, and I thought that I will skip most of these things and not go into work on this project with them. But since I decided to gain full experience by doing this project, I decided to implement all things that I would do by creating a personal project. Yes, it makes this project a longer than I anticipated in terms of a creation process, and the more time will be spent, I guess, on rendering. But I hope that because I actually spent time on these things, the next stages will be faster. And of course the next project will be definitely faster, because now I'm already going to have the full experience from start to finish. Because before that I had experience only in practical experience only in terms of a creation process, only in separate things. So I worked separately on ideas, I worked separately on the so-called middle stages of the project. I said before that there's no such thing as middle stage of the project, but basically on the later stages of the beginning stages, let's call it like this. So on these like explorational sketches, on reference gatherings, on separately on renderings, but I never put this thing together properly by creating like a finished piece and implementing all things in it. So yeah, this is like my first attempt to do it, like put all these things together. And since I'm working with Fanart, it's at the beginning I kind of saw it as a different thing, but it's pretty much, there are familiar things to every creation process, I guess. A little bit different approach, yeah, definitely, in terms of what step is going to be next, but the whole point is the same: finished project. So yeah, I kind of get lost, so let's just get back. So this question is answered mostly, at least for this stage. Accessories, I think, answered. Chairs not answered because they're going to be as part of the transformers. Table answered. Tablecloth answered. Next thing that we're going to search, going to pay. So again, right now, hello problem. So what problem I'm thinking? So the problem is when you have a bunch of surroundings, and usually when you work with the surroundings, and in terms of for instance reference search, for now I have a problem. Okay, I can choose to start with a chairs, but since chairs are going to be a part of the transformers, and this is going to be a part of the transformers, and this one, and this one, and this one, and this one, and almost every surrounding element is going to be some type of a part of a broken transformers, and I not necessarily know what type of element I would use for that, because again, as I said before, transformers are pretty complex and it's pretty hard to choose a particular element to represent something, especially a chair. Because for me, kind of imagining how Angry Birds would sit on Transformers parts, it's a cool idea. But the problem is, like, realization of this idea becomes pretty painful right away when you start to actually deal with it. So that's why I think when you have that much elements and you don't know how to properly answer these questions. So again, we have these questions, but we don't have a proper way to answer these questions. When we are stumbled upon this type of a problem, I think the better way is going to be to choose something that you are picturing the best, or the most, I don't know. So picturing the thing that you have the most awareness about, or not awareness, but visuals in your mind, I guess. I don't know. So I'm actually picturing statues pretty like finished. So I know how they're going to look. I know what type of poses I'm going to search for statues. So that way, I think when you have these type of problems, you work from something that you are picturing the best, and then you go down to something that you're picturing less in your mind. So again, probably the less amount of information that I'm picturing in my mind in terms of visuals, it's a Quintessa. So about Quintessa, I'm not picturing like almost nothing. I'm picturing almost nothing because I don't see anything about Quintessa. So I don't know how I would put her under the table. Is she is going to be only Quintessa's head, or it's going to be a part of her body, or it's going to be the full Quintessa, or it's going to be only parts of her? I don't have a clue. So, but again, I want to make this idea real. The same for this one. I kind of picturing heads right here, or some different details of the Transformers, but again, it's so vague that I don't know what type of information I would search for. So that's why we need to start with something that we are actually picturing. And when we're starting to do this, it will create some type of a starting point for us to then pick up from this one, to pick up from statues and find answers for these ones. Because again, when we work with the design and with the composition, we need to use repetitive elements to make things seem cohesive. And of course, if I create statues and I will create some type of design for a statue, then I could use partial parts of the design from these statues to implement them into these transformer parts piles, the piles of ashes, into Quintessa itself, and into the chairs. So that way you actually usually work with attack this problem when you don't know where to go actually, I think. At least I would attack this problem like this, because right now I actually don't have any picture in my mind how would garbage piles would look and what type of details would be in these piles. Again, I'm kind of picturing random piles, but they definitely not going to look like this. Maybe they going to have similar silhouette to them, but they definitely have to have some type of inner details that we have to figure out how we would design in order for this to look coherent with the whole piece. And again, one of the ways is to start with something that you're picturing the best. And my mind in my mind I'm seeing this statues as something that could be the starting point for trying to figure out how Contessa is going to place right there and look, how all chairs are going to look, and etc. So basically that. So yeah, I guess since we're going to start with the statues, or continue with the statues, statues. Let's go to our Angry Birds reference gallery. So yeah, we started with 80 and now we added 100 more, which is a pretty cool thing. So we spent a bunch of time on it, but that way we actually have like all necessary visual information that we could use. Actually, about the tables, we already have information about the table in here. We could use it. So right here we have a little bit of sneak peek of how table like would look like. Basically we have basic information. Let's just put this one because this is table from different angles. K. Okay, shoot. I already saved this one. Because, wait a minute, this is my pins. Yes, so let's just get back to our transformers and try to start with the statues. So again, since we don't find anything about transformers in here, I think we're going to use our extensive search. And we will go to the Transformers movie scenes. When we are going to go into complex designs, we will try to picture what type of things we could put under the table, what type of things we could put as a piles of transformer parts. For that we will mostly use probably action scenes because they are packed with small details that we could use at the end. And then we will of course go into specifics in terms of like transformer movie scenes, like statues, try to go with them. Yeah, something like this I actually imagined for statues. Like these statues has to basically stand. This is actually in reality. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Yeah, we're basically going to work with these type of things. We're going to search after the break. So yeah, right now I guess I will make a quick break, and after that we'll be back and we will continue to work with a reference search. Now we're going to search statues for the Cybertron. So yeah, we'll be back in a minute. And break is over. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, so the main reason why I usually have low energy, usually I actually have pretty much. So yeah, I'm a pretty energetic person. But the problem is, so of course, when I'm thinking, when I'm trying to kind of tackle all things at once, brain kind of goes into reserve mode in order to somehow to, I don't know. So previous stream I was pretty pumped up because I talked about things that I am actually kind of was interesting to discuss and whatever, and when I'm just like talking I could be pretty energetic, but when I'm trying to work and try to talk at the same time, it becomes problematic because again our brain usually can't do multiple things at once, and it's pretty hard to kind of train yourself to do these things at the same time. So either you learn to, for instance, create something and make a short breaks to demonstrate what you already did, or basically while you're working try to talk about what you will do next. These type of things create I don't know. These type of things actually can have energy, but when you're specifically doing something, usually you need to think, and when you're thinking, you're speaking badly. That's one of the reasons why I actually can't like put even sometimes two words properly together. And because of course I'm only getting experience in speaking English, so yeah, I understand English pretty well, but when it comes to speaking, for me it's pretty hard. Don't have experience in speaking English, so for me this is like the first time thing. So yeah, let's just continue with the Transformer bloops. So yeah, I already kind of found things that I could use. These type of things are actually the things that I would definitely use for this. So again, I try to imagine these statues like they are placed right here. Trying to picture these statues right here and try to look for legs. And actually the cool thing about these statues that were produced in real life, they're not that complex as a real Transformers, which definitely will benefit us, because real Transformers, of course, since they are imaginary creatures, they were pretty detailed. But these type of Transformers that were produced in reality, they had to be simplified. So for instance, right here, since this is probably a real statue, all details right here is pretty simplified, which actually kind of helps us to pick up on these simplifications and deal with Transformers complexity. Because right here, like, awesome people that created this statue already did it for us. They tried to simplify the complexity of every Transformer, and they created something complex yet simple enough, or no, complex enough to represent Transformers that were depicted in film, but at the same time simplistic enough to not go into too much details. So this is a pretty good idea to use these type of statues for it. Is this the same one? Or this is the other? Oh, I guess this is the same one. But we're still going to use it, because this type of like design I would definitely picture it in the statues, some type of a simplified design. The closer we will get to this design, the better. So that's why I'm saving a bunch of references for it, because again, it's beneficial to see this type of simplification as close as possible. Of course, we have to remember that we are going to put all these statues in perspective, and they're going to be in pretty extreme angles. That's why we need these designs from as much angles as possible. And if we have, for instance, this type of angle, this type of angle is pretty cool, like to depict right here, it's pretty extreme. It has things that we need probably. But again, we're not searching for a particular angle. It would be cool, of course, but we just searching for something. Again, thinking about simplification, how we would simplify that. And again, when people are actually creating these type of statues using film, they had to create it much more simpler way, because to produce this type of complexity in real life is a pretty hard thing to do. Pretty hard thing to do. This is pretty cool reference. Is going to be for us when we are going to work with a matte surfaces and rendering matte surfaces. But at the same time, since this was created in reality, we still can see how many details were put into this to reproduce this thing in reality. This is a maquette for a, I guess this was a sculpt, But even to create these type of sculpts, can you imagine how many work you have to put into this? Even if this is not a sculpt. Again, these things will definitely help us to simplify, to seeing how they simplified them from film. They're still pretty complex right here, but they're not that complex as in film, because in film their complexity really overwhelming. In statues, their complexity it's a little has more balance, I guess. Of course, we wouldn't want to compare them with old Transformers, which is too simple. Ideally, we need to find some type of balance between old Transformers, or should I say not old, but old school Transformers or Origin, and compare them to something movie related. So let's just see what things were saved. This is my first experience of using Firefox actually. Pretty cool design. Pretty cool features. I would probably continue to use it. So I saved only one picture. Let's use this one to find more like this, because this is actual pose that I pictured all statues in. That's why we need to find as much of these as possible. From every possible angle. I don't think that we will manage to find no, we already kinda have this. Okay, from a bottom. How big they are though. So when things too small, of course we always can zoom in. It's not a problem. Of course we're going to lose quality, but it doesn't matter as long as we have like the complete understanding of a form and etc. So from 100% going up. No, actually, this one from last Transformers would be a cool thing to have. Yeah, I guess today we definitely not go into the sketching stage. I guess we will going to work on a reference gathering, but ideally I want to finish this reference gathering today, and then tomorrow we'll actually start sketching finally. Yeah, funny when the whole session is basically reference gathering. Okay, so Transformers movie scene. Cybertron. Let's hope to find as much picture or imagery as possible on Cybertron. course, this imagery has to be appropriate for us. It's definitely going to be a hard thing. Don't think that I see something in it. Oh, actually, yeah, we could use this one to depict silhouettes and kind of backgrounds. Yeah, this actually could work for a background. Background elements. Oh, we actually have a much more film look version. Why not use it? Let's use it. I don't know how big this are, but this is. Also, would be a good thing to use this one, I guess, because again we have some type of things that we could use for a for further backgrounds. Oh, it's loading so slow. A very cool thing to do though. Is this like a real movie? No, I don't want to open them because we could run into some problems there. Let's just save it into the Pinterest and see how it looks. Maybe it's too big. That's why it don't. Nope, it's normal. So yeah, again, how Cybertron looks in terms of the design, how buildings, whatever. So this information is actually would be pretty beneficial to us, definitely. This one could be beneficial, Quintessa from a different angle. Again, we have to think about all these things at once. Still focusing on particular thing, but if we find something that could be helpful, of course, to use it. I don't remember if I have this. Let's just see. I think I don't. So it's better to save it. Again, when I will make an extensive search in a movie scenes from YouTube or whatever place that I will find them, I will basically snapshot movie scenes that I feel could answer my questions, and this thing I will be doing outside of the stream because again, in order to not run into copyright issues. But again, not everything you can find in imagery like this. Sometimes you have to go into extensive search and, for instance, watch some film or find some film or buy some film that has a bunch of scenes in it, which is like by itself a pretty big reference library. Because again, can you imagine how many sequences one film has? Add to this how many frames every sequence has, and like there's a bunch of references in it. So films would be probably the best reference, but they are not that easy to acquire, so you have to buy them. We are talking again only on legal ways of acquiring these things. There's the other ways, but we are not going to talk about them. Yeah. Well, this one is a Cybertron. Movie shots. Okay, this is a part of the Transformers. Yeah, I wanted to find the name. What is this? So in the movie, since I watched the movie not that far long ago, I remember like two sequences that would be helpful for us. First sequence was inside the ship, which was under the water, and the second is the Cybertron itself. We could draw design from there in terms of how they were depicted. Doesn't look like Transformers. Or it is. It is actually. Yeah, that could help us to figure out how the surroundings would look. I just said it. Maybe we'll. Again, the more rich visual library you have, the richer your library gets, the less you will be dependent on references. You're still going to search for references when you're going to deal with a unfamiliar subject, but again, we have to start somewhere, right? And this is like a start. Either way, when you're trying to make realistic drawings, you have to use references. So on material stage, you always go into references, no matter how experienced you are, I think. Because materials are usually behave differently with, or depending on conditions that they are in. And I don't think that there's an artist that actually can like draw something and draw everything completely not using a reference. Or if there are some artists that are not using references, they have so rich visual library that, and they draw one specific subject that stays inside of this visual library. But if you give them something that they didn't necessarily encounter before, I guarantee you they had to use references. So don't see anything, like, come on. Complete emptiness. There's nothing here. Need to find. Let's just go like this. It's kind of the same. Kinda same. I wish I could find something like this, similar to this. Let's just go try. Maybe we'll find something through Pinterest. Also, let's just delete this one, since we already have similar. So the only thing that I didn't search for is, separately at least, is a Quintessa, chairs, and the piles. But again, they all codependent. Figuring out the statues will basically answers all questions, almost all questions, in terms of design. So basically right now what I'm searching for all these Transformers The Last Night scenes, they are mostly will answer most of our questions. So if I won't find something in this particular stream, I will definitely then find the rest separately from stream by making a snapshots from videos on YouTube and other resources. Do we have them? Yeah, like we have movie clips, we have trailers, and basically this is like pretty simple and free information for us to be. We don't have to use illegal sources for that, or legal ways to draw these sources to require them. This one is pretty enough. Okay, so yeah, I wanted to search. Let's just try to search with these frames. Try to see what could bring. Yeah, not that much. It's basically give us a bunch of cool ideas with the different artists, but not Cybertron. Yeah, I actually wanted to search with this one. Hello, Daenerys. Nope, nothing specific here either. Yeah, I think we're not going to find that much because again, I know what type of scenes I am already looking for, and so much more easier would be to just find these type of scenes in this video clips or the parts of the movie or whatever, or just buy a movie and search through the whole reference base of this movie. Nowadays you could easily access these type of things through the movie platforms. So if you're for instance subscribed on some type of monthly base on some type of platform that provides you all movies that are in, you easily can use this type of platforms to do this. Basically make snapshots of a particular movie that works for you, and these type of movie ground or movie-based platforms or series-based platforms, perhaps like Netflix or something like that, they have pretty deep reference base for you if you're going to use this type of reference search by trying to find a movie scenes and use them as your references. Yeah, again, the rest questions would be answered with these type of reference searches, which I'm not going to do right here again for the copyright issues. Yeah, I'm going to do them again separately, but the questions that I'm basically going to ask and trying to answer are going to be particular shots of the from Cybertron, where these statues are actually placed right beside the wall, things that are placing on the floor, because I don't think that we can find some type of a shot just for the ceiling or for the floor or for the walls. It's a pretty hard thing to search in search engines, because this is not something that people usually save and put on the internet. Yeah, again, we are going to work with a alien floor specific for the Cybertron, and we need to actually figure out what type of floor Cybertron is actually has. So that's where we are going to go with this reference search, like this. So I think since there's no point of starting sketching, and reference search is not possible live, that type of reference search that I'm going to use by using movie clips from the internet, and I think we will end in about 5 minutes or less. Let's just go into our closing thoughts. Yeah, so basically what I'm going to try to search in these movie clips, again, something to depict aftermath from the war between Transformers. So basically I'm going to search some type of I don't know, broken machinery. I'm going to search for basically broken Transformers. I think there were a bunch of them in the movie. Going to search for, especially in action scenes when Transformers were fought, not necessarily in the last Transformers, but in previous parts. I think there was definitely something like that. It will definitely help me to figure out what type of details I will put in there. These statues that we are saved, references of the statues that we are saved, will basically help us to find a way to simplify Transformers, because again, they're too complex and we need to find a way to simplify them more. And these things will definitely help us to do so. What else? In terms of how chairs are going to look and what type of part of the Transformers we are going to use to put as a chair, this is still an open question, but I will definitely try to answer it and try to figure out what type of thing we're going to place there. Again, the more information we're going to have on Transformer details or designs, the more information we will have to place there. Again, at the beginning, the whole idea was just to place their heads, Transformers heads, but since their head are have pretty different shapes to them, not all heads are necessarily fit for a chair. They're not that comfortable to sit in. So I need to think about that too, like about, is it going to be a comfortable thing to do? I know that if they're placing heads of the Transformers under as a chair and sitting on them, this is more like a statement. It doesn't have to be comfortable to sit in them. It's like a statement that they're one. But either way, I want to kind of make things a little bit more organic, and the one oh come on, I forgot the word. The one way how could I make this organic is to make sure that things going to be comfortable for every creature. So for instance, if this one is going to be stand on the Transformer's head, it has to be balanced for Jack to not fall off of this chair. The same for this one. He's going to try to reach a cup of tea on a plate, and this head has to be stable enough for him to not fall off of this chair. The same for this one and this one. So this way we actually can create an organic feel to it by making things look realistically comfortable. So by thinking about how things are actually function, about functionality. This is one of the aspects of design that actually is pretty important. So yeah, on that note, I will definitely finish. We will start working on sketching things tomorrow, and before that I of course need to gather a bunch of references from movie sequences and try to find as much as possible information for us to use. So yeah, on that note, thank you for watching and see you in the next stream. Yeah. Bye bye.